Joe. Maria was a 15-year-old girl who was walking home from school, just like most of us do, and a group of 6 men came and started beating her, and they all screamed abuse at her while they were beating her, and they each took turns raping her, and ever since then, she took the longer route to go back home, and she felt disgusted at herself. She felt ashamed. She felt like it was all her fault. She didn't tell anyone. She couldn't even tell her family members because she felt like this was all her fault, and that it was she just felt dirty, I guess. And then Joe was a soldier who witnessed a lot of murder from his friends and stuff. And one experience that he experienced was he witnessed his close friend Gary get blown up by a landmine. And ever since then, he would jump when he heard loud noises, and when he came home, he was different to everyone in his family and close friends, and he pushed everyone aside. And both of these, Maria and Joe, experienced PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is self-explanatory because it's after a traumatic experience that they've experienced, they have trauma and they act differently, they feel nervous, they feel anxious, they have nightmares, and this affects not only themselves but family members and close friends. So what is PTSD? Does anyone have a good explanation or definition of it? Jaime?
Post-traumatic stress disorder is once you experience something and it scars you. So every time something related to it, like you said, a big loud noise. The guy related it to a mine, so he's always going to be remembering that. It's always going to be haunting him.
So most people know about post-traumatic stress disorder, but they don't really do anything about it, and that's the issue in our community because most of us, we live in the world where crimes are increasing, bullying, witnessing gunshots, and being in gangs. All of these things affect post-traumatic stress disorder, and this connects to me because, well, I personally don't know anyone who has post-traumatic stress disorder, but I love watching CSI, I love watching Criminal Minds, just like Casey does, and they all show us post-traumatic stress disorder and how people who witness crimes or have seen things affect them traumatically. So this video, I interviewed a few people about post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people don't know about it, and other people know about it, but most of them have the same answer. Do you know what PTSD is?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Do you know what PTSD is?
No.
I don't know. I know most people in the military get it when they come out, but it's when they're practically traumatized from the things they've seen in the military.
No, that it occurs most commonly with soldiers returning from war.
So most of these answers are correct. None of them are wrong, but most of them think that it's only affecting soldiers from the military, but it's not. It affects most of us. Some people may know people in gangs. Gang members can have the disorder PTSD. So not only, I mentioned before that it doesn't only affect themselves, but affects family members. I watched a show where a soldier came back home and his wife was sleeping next to him, and he woke up and he tried to choke her because he thought that she was someone else in war. He had a dream, reoccurring dream about his experiences while he was at war. And not only does it affect the loved ones, but it affects their relationships with anyone. They isolate themselves. They think that they can't tell anyone what they experience because they feel as if none of them understand what they're actually going through. And it also affects all their schoolwork, work, just in general their life. And connecting that, it connects to life because it can cause suicides. Not many of us know what to do with PTSD patients because there's no cure for it yet. And PTSD is the second highest rate for suicides in America right now, and it just cannot be cured except for like going to therapy sessions and going to other, talking to actually other people, opening up, but that takes time. So PTSD does not only affect military people, but most people who know about PTSD only thinks that because soldiers are the majority of people who have PTSD, but they're not the only ones. They have suburban police, firefighters, military veterans, raped adults, battered women, and abused children. Abused children have the most. And this connects to what Casey was talking about in her TED Talk about how serial killers have experienced PTSD, and because they were abused as a child, it caused them to kill people when they got older. And also not mentioned here is like bullying that I mentioned before, and gang and other stuff. So what will you do now? The issue in our community is that most people know about PTSD. Like if I ask people, like they know about it, and most of you guys know about it. But what will you do about it? Like what can we do? And there's no exact cure or medication that can cure it, but we can help convince and like start art therapy. I researched about military people going to art therapy where they create artwork, and it's a calmer thing for them to do instead of like expressing their emotions violently. Like most of them go drinking alcohol, and they think that that's the only way where they can forget the things that they experienced. But that's not the only way, and that causes them to go spiraling down and cause suicide too. And how can we start raising awareness? We can start raising awareness by doing small things like talking to other people and sharing each other what PTSD is and like what we can do about it. Like you guys can share the information that I gave you right now to other people, and with sharing, like it can spark people's mind and plant in people's mind what to do. Someone may want to start a group in a community, like a small community, where they talk to teenagers who are in gangs and have witnessed their friends dying. And how do you feel now? After me telling you all of this, like, do you feel the need to want to do something, to want to share these stories? Do you want to start a small group of therapy, like art therapy, anything?
I think like how you mentioned that it's mostly recognized with people who would go to war. I think it's easy for us to just make those little comments that it's not only for people who go to war, that it happens to different people commonly.
I kind of feel that it should be important that you should try to learn what PTSD is and how people who don't get it just for war get it from other things, and try to find ways to help them out, because it could be easier for them.
Even though I do not have a personal connection with this, I do have an emotional connection with it, because I feel the need to change our community and start raising awareness, and starting to raise awareness will generate compassion, and generating compassion will actually make people have the need to help and start these things that Jasmine and